and welcome back to another episode of Yes Chef! I'm your host, Lucille Orr-D'oeuvre, and today we're going to be making a simple dish that doesn't take much but the basics that you have on hand for those days when you don't feel like running out to the greengrocer for fresh food or your budget is running tight. It's a great way to make a delicious, satisfying meal in just about half an hour. You betcha, I'm talking about the classic dish, Pasta Carbonara! Now this dish is creamy and fulfilling. You won't be hungry shortly after. You get your veggies, you get your protein, and everything else that's good for you, all mixed in together. Now a lot of people think that pasta carbonara is a complicated dish, just because it's so scrumptious and it looks so appealing when it's presented, but it really is one of the simplest dishes you can make. We're going to be talking about some of the different variations, but for the most part, this recipe is going to be the simplest, quickest, and least expensive one that you'll find out there. Some recipes call for bacon, some recipes call for a lot of cheese, but this one is nice and simple. We're going to start off with a whole box of pasta. Now you can use any kind of pasta you want, but I personally prefer the penne rigate noodle because the peas that we'll be putting in this pasta like to hide in the pasta noodles. So not only will your kids eat the peas without even knowing it, or maybe your curmudgeonly spouse, but it is also a joy to find a nice little pea surprise in your mouthful that you weren't expecting. It's a bit of the same sensation of a roasted cherry tomato bursting in your mouth. So lovely. A lot of people swear that spaghetti is the best simply because of the mathematical equation of its surface area being more easily coated by the sauce. And I agree with that. You can't disagree with simple mathematics. But for me, I prefer the surprise of the penne noodle. You'll also be needing 3 whole eggs, 3/4 cups of heavy cream, 1 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and it doesn't have to be the fancy stuff here. You can use the cheapest stuff on the supermarket shelf that you can find. It's perfectly fine. It won't make a difference in the taste because it's covered up by this delicious cream and egg. And you'll also be needing salt and pepper to taste. There's no measurement for it. You just add it until you think it tastes fine, little by little. Don't overdo it to begin with, or else you've ruined the whole thing. Now these are some pretty basic ingredients. A lot of people have them at home. I, for one, have started keeping Parmesan on hand just for this recipe. You'll also be needing a tablespoon of olive oil, 1 diced onion. I prefer a normal medium-sized onion, nothing too big, and 2 diced cloves of garlic. If you like things more garlicky, add another clove if you like. But only one clove isn't going to be enough to flavor this delicious dish. You'll need 1 cup of frozen peas. Yes, I said frozen. Now, I typically always advocate for fresh, healthy food, but frozen peas really, they have just as much nutritional value as fresh peas, yet you can get them any time of year. They're easy to keep, and they're wonderful when you bump your head on something pointy. You'll also need about half a cup of diced, thin-sliced ham. Personally, I just use the sandwich lunch meat that you buy at the supermarket. It's cut just the right thickness, and it's cheap, and it's easy to keep on hand. You don't have to have a fancy ham dinner the night or 2 nights before you make your pasta carbonara. It's just not necessary. The sandwich lunch meat ham does the trick very nicely. Now, with pasta carbonara, it is important that you do everything in order. Now here is why some people get discouraged with this dish, but no need. It is very simple, as long as you can follow these simple directions step by step. First, you boil the pasta. Personally, I prefer it to be boiled beyond al dente. I don't like my pasta to fight back with me when I bite into it. But I do know most people prefer al dente. If that's the case, monitor the time according to the package of pasta you're using, and remove the pasta from the boil as soon as it's ready. Otherwise, if you're like me and it doesn't really matter to you, the pasta doesn't boil down into a mush, it's perfectly fine if it isn't rubbery. You can just leave it boiling on the stove for a while. It's great for humidifying the air in your kitchen. The next thing you'll need to do is beat the 3 eggs with a wire whisk, and then whisk in the cup of Parmesan cheese and the heavy cream, and season it to taste with salt and pepper. Make sure it's not too overpowering, and make sure it's not too weak. But a very simple step. Then set that bowl aside. You'll be getting back to it later. Now comes the hot part. You're going to sauté the diced onion and garlic in the tablespoon of olive oil in a large saucepan or a pasta pot. Once that's been going for a couple of minutes and is beautifully fragrant, and the onion has become translucent, then it's time to throw in the peas and the ham. Now the peas are going to off-balance the heat of the ingredients in the pot, so it's going to take some time to warm that back up. And you need these ingredients to be hot. The next step is a very slight one, but very important. Use your glass measuring cup, as long as it is heat-proof, and dip it into the boiling pasta water and reserve at least half a cup of the pasta water. You might not need it, but if you do, you will really regret not reserving it. Trust me. Then drain all the pasta. Now, I have a very wonderful pasta pot. It was the cheapest one I could buy at the time, but it works wonders. It has a locking lid with perforation on the top, so all I have to do is tip the pot into the sink and the water comes out and the pasta stays in. It's magnificent. You don't have to worry about trying to pour the pasta into a strainer or trying to pour the hot pasta water into your measuring cup. Please be careful if you are doing such a thing. Really a good idea to invest in either a formal pasta pot if you have the funds, or a cheaper version like I have with a locking lid. It works wonders. Then you will add your cooked pasta into the ham, pea, onion, and garlic mixture, and make sure it comes to a heated up temperature, that it is nice and hot. It should be sizzling. The oil in the pot should be slightly sizzling. Then comes the pièce de résistance. You will take your cheese mixture and pour the whole thing into the pot. I like to use a little silicone spatula to scrape all of the sauce out of the bowl, so I don't waste any bit of it. It's too delicious. And as you mix this in very quickly, and do not stop mixing, you just incorporate it, the egg very gently cooks with the heated ham and pasta and peas without curdling the egg and making it scrambled. You get the most delicious velvety sauce. It's the kind the French would call a velouté, because it is so soft and smooth and creamy, and velvety. Oh, it will just send you to the moon. Now, if your sauce is too chunky or too thick, here is where the reserved pasta water comes in handy. In very small amounts, just add it little by little until the sauce thins out into a lovely velouté. Now, this can also be garnished with a handful of chopped parsley if you want to freshen things up and keep it bright and green a little. But otherwise, it is ready to be served hot and delicious to everybody. And it is just such a crowd pleaser and such good comfort food. You're going to want to start keeping Parmesan cheese on hand too, just as I've begun doing. And that is all there is to this delicious classic dish. As I said, there are many different recipes that can be in varying degrees of difficulty and complexity, but this is the one to make on that weeknight when you just don't have the energy to cook or to go out and pick up ingredients. You just want to throw something together quick, yet it is still very satisfying, far better than just cheese and crackers when you're not feeling like cooking. So I hope you give this recipe a try. Let me know what you think of it. It really is magnificent. Thank you so much for joining me here again on another episode of Yes, Chef. I'm your host, Lucille Orr-D'oeuvre. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.